Again, ladies and gentlemen, Michael Matt coming to you this time from high atop a mountain in West Virginia at the compound, I guess we could say, of the Catholic Identity Conference. My partner in crime, my friend, my brother, Eric Frankovich, who's the president and director of the Catholic Identity Conference, he's out of town this week, and so he's graciously offered his home to my son and I, where we're going through the process now of recovery and rehabilitation and just wrapping our minds around this new chapter in our lives. As many of you know, Walter was in an accident, a very serious accident last week. He's a remnant TV producer. He's in an accident, lost his leg below the knee, thank God. He's in good spirits. And we just dropped him off for his first day of classes today, so he wanted to get back into it. He promises everybody he's going to be up and running, and we're not going to let this stop us. So thanks for all your support. And then we just wanted to check back in and let everybody know that Remnant TV is gradually getting back up and running, and that we're still amongst the living. So again, thanks for everything. This has been very difficult for us, but we're going to get through it. So. I guess this would be our first program then of 2020, first program of the new year. Lots has happened over the past few weeks. So, and I wanted actually the point of the show was to talk about this apostolic exhortation that was to follow the Amazon Synod. Is going to come out any day now. So brace yourselves for that. Judging from the early, the rollout plan for this thing, we got to get ready to just stand right up and resist it, because it's going to be unbelievable. A few days ago, the great Vaticanista Aldo Maria Valli in Rome, he posted a leaked letter that was sent to the world's bishops from the general relator of the Pan-Amazon Synod, Cardinal Hummes, a real piece of work, by the way. But this letter is just amazing. It essentially tells the Catholic people the world over that we're getting this apostolic exhortation whether we like it or not. And we better like it, because if we don't, then we're basically enemies of God, enemies of the Pope, and pretty much outside the church. They're really warning everybody that this is coming no matter what, and it's going to contain some surprises. So the thing, again, is due to be released sometime this week, or at the latest next week, and Cardinal Hummes sends this letter out in which he says that all the people of the world, well, not all the people, the good-willed people are going to accept this exhortation, and that the bishops, quote, in full communion with Pope Francis, will not question it. It's unbelievable. So here goes. This is the same old mantra. If you question Francis, you're questioning the God of surprises. And as Aldo Maria Valli puts it, if you don't like it, Mr. Bishop, if you don't like the exhortation, you're not in full communion with Pope Francis. Since when is an apostolic exhortation that's supposed to defend the faith and help people come closer to God and closer to the church? Since when does it need a rollout like this? And yet, to help roll it out, they have to brainwash people into accepting it and more or less threaten the bishops to not question it. I mean, Cardinal Hummes is literally encouraging the bishops. Here's what he says. He says, those of you who are in full communion with Francis, first of all, here's what you need to do. First, you need to plan a press conference or another event as soon as possible after the promulgation. That's the first thing. Get ready for this thing. Second thing you need to do, you need to present the exhortation with, quote, an indigenous representative wherever possible. Why? I thought the church was a universal church. Bring in, quote, responsible pastoral experts, ordained or religious, laymen or lay women, and he wants an expert on environmental issues and a young person engaged in youth ministry in order to roll out the exhortation. What are we talking about here? I mean, God help us. This apostolic exhortation must be something right out of hell if the good cardinal has to go to such lengths to warn people, to warn the whole church, to brace yourselves, incoming an exhortation from Francis, like something you've never seen before. And something tells me, obviously, that they're not going to be able to point, to the Catechism of the Catholic Church in order to justify and set our nerves at ease here, that this is all very, very Catholic, because it's not going to be all very, very Catholic. This comes right from the God of surprises. And you know what really gets me about this? Who do they think they're kidding, these guys in the Vatican? I mean, there's a massive clerical sex scandal going on. They've got the Vatican bank scandal. They have no credibility. It's like they're trading off of the church's wonderful, powerful reputation from a few hundred years ago. That's all they have left. Because everybody's looking at the Vatican and saying, who are these clowns? And why would anyone take them seriously? You know, and yet they're just going to continue on with this stuff. The Vatican is so completely out of touch with regular people that they have no idea how silly this looks, how stupid and contrived this looked, this rollout of the Apostolic Exhortation. And they kind of remind me of like a clueless stepdad, an angry, clueless stepdad. No connection with the kids at all in the new family, in the new home, but he's lording it over them anyway and telling them what to do, and they're all ready to just throw him right out the window. Cardinal Robert Sarah is treated like some sort of criminal. And what's his crime? Well, he's defending the church's teaching on clerical celibacy. We can't have that. Somebody needs to shut Cardinal Sarah up for sure, because this guy, he's undermining Francis, which means he's undermining the God of surprises. You know, so just this week, Nicole Winfield of the Associated Press reports that poor Cardinal Sarah, in an interview with the Italian daily newspaper, Il Foglio, you know, the Cardinal Sarah has to now denounce what he calls the brutality, quote, the brutality of the criticisms that he's received so far. Criticisms directed at him, at his new book, and at his co-author, yes, Benedict XVI, who, I'm sorry, Georg Gonswein, but yes, Benedict XVI co-authored the book. We all know what's going on here, despite the embarrassing games that the Vatican is playing. And there's Cardinal Sarah again, and what is he doing? Why are they so against this man? All he's doing is repeating what Pope John Paul was talking about, when Pope Pius XI, Pope Pius, all the popes back 1,000 years about issues such as celibacy in the clergy and the Roman Rite. You know, and he rightly says, Cardinal Sarah, he says, quote, if you weaken the law of celibacy, you open a breach, a wound in the mystery of the church, end quote, says Cardinal Sarah. But you see, in the church that Pope Francis is building, somehow this is controversial, to defend clerical celibacy. And then because the church is in such chaos, politically everything is trying to keep pace. Because, like, for example, Vice President Mike Pence, he goes over to the Vatican last week in order to sort of talk about that issue that a lot of people, a lot of Catholics are concerned about, the slaughter of babies in their mothers' wombs. Like, hey, Francis, I want you to know that we're actually the pro-life guys. We're the good guys. Think you might be able to back us up? Because they don't have any confidence that Pope Francis is going to do anything other than try to sandbag and defeat Donald Trump in 2020. And so Pence has to remind Pope Francis that my guy, our president, is the most pro-life president in American history. You know that, don't you, Holiness? It's almost as if Vice President Pence is trying to head off the Vatican interference in the 2020 election. And we all know that that's coming. People keep talking about Russian interference. Forget about it. What you want to watch out for is Vatican interference. They're not very good on working on things that pertain to the soul, but they're great at politics. They're great at leftist, globalist politics. That's what the Vatican is very, very good at these days. And the United Nations is there to cheer them on with the little UN pom-poms. They're doing a great job. And you can see it's happening. You can see this interference in our election is already setting up. On January 27th, Pope Francis met with bishops from California, Hawaii, Nevada, a couple other states, during the ad limina visit to the Vatican. And what do you know? He tells them right away, the Catholics need to guard against angry rhetoric that comes from a polarized society in an election year. Francis, note to Francis, the reason that America, for example, is polarized is because one side of the political spectrum wants to kill babies, and the other side of the political spectrum is known for trying to defend babies. You see, so the fact that politically and our country is polarized, that's a good thing, Your Holiness. It should be polarized. And the problem with Pope Francis is that there is no polarization between him and his pro-abort pals at the United Nations. That's the problem. So you see what this means? When Francis calls special meetings with U.S. bishops to say, don't let anything get polarized, there's so much fighting in your country, he's more interested in just having everybody have a great big group hug than he is in defending the unborn. Because the polarization in this country comes from abortion, gay marriage, and the cultural moral issues that one party has completely abandoned. The Pope should, one would think, be able to comprehend this. But instead he talked about with the bishops, with the American bishops then at the ad limina, he says, he's talking about immigration and political divisions within the United States, and he hit some of the favorite Democrat talking points. Why? Because I think he's setting the American bishops up to do their duty. That is, to make sure that Donald Trump loses in 2020. That seems to be what Pope Francis is all about. So again, I would say to President Trump, watch your back. Forget about Russia. Look at the Vatican. Look across the Tiber. Those are the ones, those are the people that are going to really work. Because we all remember exactly what the Vatican did with the man who was known as the European Trump. Remember? This is Matteo Salvini. Famous, you know, for doing terrible things like holding up his rosary at political rallies and calling on Our Lady and the patron saints of Europe to help defeat the globalist pals of Pope Francis in the EU. Yeah, obviously a bad guy. But the reality is the Vatican worked very hard to support Salvini's opponents, and they were successful. Salvini is now struggling for his political survival. When just a little while ago, last year, he was destined to become the Prime Minister of Italy. But what was his problem? He was too Catholic. The Vatican couldn't have any of that. And at one point, Pope Francis actually went so far as to refuse to meet with Salvini, saying, quote, "Until his language and politics changes, I can't and I don't want to shake his hand," end quote. To which, remember, Salvini rather famously quipped, "I didn't ask to shake his hand. I didn't even ask to meet him." You know, people are so tired of this guy, you know. But last time around, let's remember, Francis, I'm talking about U.S. politics now, last time around, Francis told the world that Trump wasn't Christian. Remember all this? That Trump was he was a wall builder and not a bridge builder, and whatever series of stupid cliches he had to really try to undermine Trump.
Grazie a Dio che ha detto che io sono politico, perché Aristotele define la persona umana come animal politicus, almeno sono persona umana, e che sono una pedina, ma forse, non so, lo lascio al giudizio di voi, della gente. E poi una persona che pensa soltanto in fare muri, sia dove sia, e non fare ponti, non è cristiano.
And at the same time, you know, he has his underlings inviting Trump's political opponents to the Vatican for little, you know, speaking gigs and tea and whatever else.
We know you stayed last night at the papal residence, so did you meet with Pope Francis?
We did. We had the opportunity to meet with him this morning. He is on his way to Greece now, but we did have the opportunity to chat with him a little bit.
Can you describe for me what that meeting was like? Was it a private meeting? What did you talk about?
Well, I don't want to go into all of the details, but he was apologetic that he was unable to come to the conference last night where we were originally going to meet because of complications regarding his trip to Greece.
So we're just going to have to wait now and see what the Vatican comes up with now for 2020 in order to derail the re-election of Donald Trump. But you know they're working on it. And here, by the way, I just want to move on to the next point, but courtesy of a great guy that I met over in Munich a couple of weeks ago who actually took this photo. This is a photo of the evil, rosary-brandishing Matteo Salvini. Just, again, a couple of weeks ago in San Valentino, a small Italian village. There he is, on his knees, in front of an image of the Christ child, praying. So in the church that Francis built, this is the guy that Francis refuses to meet with. And this is the guy who gets speaking gigs inside the Vatican. What more can we say? So the bottom line is this. We got to pray for these anti-globalist opponents of Pope Francis, guys like Salvini, a lot of the populist folks who are doing good work, who are waking people up, realize something has to change here. We got to pray for Trump. We got to pray, of course, for Archbishop Cardinal Maria Viganò, and I'll close on this because Viganò right now holds the keys to the whole thing. If his message gets out, if enough Catholics realize what Archbishop Viganò what he knows and what he's trying to tell us, Pope Francis's pontificate could be completely undermined, which is what we all must hope and pray happens. This pontificate must be undermined. So I had the chance to have a little private meeting with him, have a cup of coffee, and get to know him a little bit. And I asked him if it was all right, rather than interview him and ask for a lot of details, if I could just pass along to readers and viewers of Remnant TV my impressions of our time together. And you know, I don't say this often or lightly, especially nowadays, but coming away from that meeting, I believe that I was in the presence of a living saint. I mean, in many ways, Viganò reminds me of Archbishop Lefebvre, you know, the same sort of soft-spoken, the same incredible and actual and not faked and not phony humility. Genuine humility, caring about people around him, wanting to make sure everybody's comfortable and everybody's happy, and then wanting to have a nice conversation, and, you know, smiling eyes, deep, deep faith, tremendous sense of his own responsibility, you know, before God as a prince of the Catholic Church, and then just this wonderful, like a personal relationship with Our Lady. You know, this is Archbishop Viganò. And so I asked him, I said, you know, are you afraid for your life? And he said, no, that's not really it. You know, he's taking prudent steps to protect himself because some of his brother bishops and cardinals have, you know, recommended that he do so, but he's not afraid. He's not hiding out and quivering or shaking. And the man, as far as I'm concerned, defines courage. And so despite everything that's gone on, he actually came out of hiding and he stood with traditional Catholics at the Acius Ordinata in Munich, knowing full well the risk that he was taking by making a public appearance like that. You know, what struck me was that what we have here is a brilliant diplomat who knows that the time for diplomacy has come and gone. It's over, you know, and now we just need to stand up and fight. So he has a very specific plan of action. I'm not going to even go into it because he didn't give me all the details of it, but I can tell you he's got a plan of action. And there's a lot more to come from this extraordinary man. He is not going out to pasture. He's not fading away. He's getting ready also I think, for the fight of his life. And it was really something to see that sort of determination in the man who's 80 years old. So my takeaway from Archbishop Viganò is this. It's just, you know, he is an example, he is exemplary of this idea of staying in the church, but stand up and defend the church against the infiltrators, the folks who have betrayed the fort. And he knows better than anybody else that that's what they are, because he was in the diplomatic corps, if you will, of the church. He knows all the players. He understands what's happening. And he's desperate. He's desperate to do what he can to stop it. And humanly speaking, all of us should be in the same boat. We need to do whatever we possibly can as members of the church militant to expose what's going on and to stop it. You know, don't underestimate the true agenda of the folks in charge right now, because that agenda is to destroy the Catholic Church. That's what it is. And so he gave us such a shot in the arm, and he gave us so much confidence and inspiration and hope, you know, during this time, that I just have, you know, I'm going to close this show today by just sending a message back to him, back to Archbishop Viganò. Thank you, Your Excellency. You know, we can see what's going on. You stand with the Church of Jesus Christ, which is why we stand with you. So please, lead on and count on us to follow. The sheep, the little people, we're dying. We literally need you, and we want to follow you. Lead us, and we will follow. And the traditional Catholics of the world, to whatever extent and to the best of our abilities, we're going to stand with you, and we've got your back, and we thank God for you and for your courage and for your example. Thank you, Your Excellency. You know, the cause is never lost so long as one man is willing to die for it. And ladies and gentlemen, I think I met that man 2 weeks ago in Munich. His name is Carlo Maria Viganò. God bless him. Thank God for him, and pray for this extraordinary man. I'm Michael Matt from Remnant TV. We'll be back in Minnesota, I hope, in a couple of weeks, where life will get back to normal. Again, thank you so much for your prayers and your support during this difficult time. God bless you all, and we'll see you next time.